Welcome back. Some fun trivia for all of you. Tomorrow marks a rare religious crossover event. It is, of course, Christmas Day, but tomorrow also marks the first day of Hanukkah, a Chrismukkah celebration, if you will. The fifth such occasion since 1900. The last one was in 2005, and the next one will occur in 2035. This dual holiday comes at a time when fewer people than ever are identifying with some form of religion. From Pew, they write this: a new study from Pew Research finds that the religiously unaffiliated, a group comprised of atheists, agnostic, and those who say the religion is just nothing in particular, is now the largest cohort in the United States. Rabbi Joe Potasnik joins me now along with Tony Perkins, the president of the Family Research Council. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on. Rabbi, I want to start with you. I'm going to talk more about the survey first, though, before we get into it. It says that they found that people are less satisfied with their local communities and less satisfied with their social lives than religious people. Cell phones, social media, connected people more than ever, but not in a literal sense, not so much. My first thought that comes to mind, I talked about this earlier in the show, we kind of had this experiment. It was called COVID. People weren't physically together, and they got hooked on drugs, alcohol. People started doing crime here. So just talk about, the need to be together, but from a spiritual standpoint, what that can give you.
This is one of the great challenges that we have today. We can't ignore it. But to get people seeing each other face to face, not Facebook on Facebook, but to be together in a room to sense the spirit of community. And I think that's what we're trying to do as best we can. There are people who identify themselves as spiritual, not the traditional, conventional fashion. And hopefully we'll see more people finding. But I do say this: I don't think anybody's found a satisfactory alternative to being together in community, to being where you can see each other, hold and hug each other. We certainly see that in times of crisis where people need to come together. We need to make sure they do it when there isn't a crisis.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Tony, I want to talk about Christianity here, under attack almost always, as are most religions. Rabbi, I'm sure you know that just as well. And this is what we got today from the New York Times. They were talking about baby Jesus was born into the most dysfunctional family that you could imagine. Mary, a young unwed woman, placed her trust in the Lord. Joseph, ready to divorce her for pregnancy, visited by an angel in a dream who told him, "Do not be afraid." They raised Jesus together in difficult circumstances, fleeing to Egypt because King Herod ordered the execution of all male children younger than 2 years old, so threatened by a word of a new king. New York Times, they can't let the traditions be. They always seem to want to pry or poke holes or make fun of, which is, I think, their real point is what they want to do.
Well, Bob, I think you're right. With the connection with Hanukkah and Christmas, I think it's appropriate. As the rabbi knows, anti-Semitism is on the rise. It really comes down to people of the book. Christians, Jews are people of the book. We understand the importance of the Word of God, how it influences our lives. And look, Jesus did experience some challenges and some difficulties, and that's what made him real. And that's why God with us, Emmanuel, he understands our challenges. And I would just say this about the community. The rabbi's absolutely correct. With the American Bible Society recently did a survey on this with Gen Zers, who are the least Bible engaged of all generations in America, 17 to 28-year-olds. But of those who, and by the way, they have the highest levels of anxiety and the least amount of hope for the future. But those who do engage with the Bible in that Gen Z category find hope and find a sense of peace that their peers don't have. In fact, they have a stronger sense of peace and community than even some of the older generations. So connecting with the one who created you through his word that he has given to us has a powerful impact. And the more that we see it marginalized and we drive people away from it, the greater levels of anxiety, the greater levels of crime and dysfunction we're going to have in society.
I blame a lot of how these kids are winding up what they learn in school, and I think schools try to remove a lot of religion as much as possible. Rabbi, last question to you. Have you ever seen anyone's life get worse when they've embraced their faith?
Yeah, look, there are times people walk through the doors, grief-stricken, feeling hopeless, and all of a sudden they connect with people. You know, in Hebrew, the word for life, chaim, is in the plural. You can't write life in the singular because we're made to be with others. And we've seen many cases where people say, you know, I found people who care about me. This is my new family. And being a friend on Facebook is not the same as having a friend that you can hold and hug. So we are the people of the book, not of Facebook, but of the book that Mr. Perkins just spoke of. And I think let's tell some of the positive stories, the differences we've made in people's lives by walking through those doors and seeing there's a community that's going to embrace you.
And maybe hold you accountable sometimes, because we know we all need that just as well. Rabbi Tony, thanks for coming on.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.